People don't have ideas. Ideas have people. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like the way you think doesn't quite match what the world expects of you? Maybe you've been told to be more logical when you naturally rely on emotion. Or maybe you've been called too sensitive when you see meaning where others see nothing. Right now, whether you realize it or not, your mind is operating in a specific way, a way that defines how you think, how you make decisions, and how you interact with the world. Jung believed that every person falls into one of four fundamental personality types. Thinkers, the rational minds, guided by cold logic and structure. Feelers, the emotional souls, driven by values, relationships, and meaning. Sensors, the realists, grounded in tangible facts and immediate reality. Intuitives, the visionaries, always searching for hidden connections and future possibilities. You might think you already know which one you are, but what if you've been living under the wrong type your entire life? Think about it. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to think a certain way. Your parents, teachers, and society pushed you towards certain behaviors while discouraging others. If you were highly logical, maybe you were told to be more in touch with your emotions. If you were emotional, maybe you were told to stop being so sensitive. If you lived in your imagination, you might have been labeled a dreamer. And if you focused on details, maybe they called you too rigid. From the moment you were born, you were being shaped, molded, and conditioned to fit an expectation. But here's the problem. What if that expectation was never truly yours? Jung believed that most people never question the lens through which they see the world. They assume their perspective is the only perspective. But understanding your dominant function isn't just about self-awareness. It's about power. Because the moment you understand your mind, you can finally take control of your life. But here's the part no one tells you. Your dominant personality function isn't the only part of you that matters. Hidden beneath the surface, in the depths of your unconscious, lies something far more important. Something that might explain why you've always felt that something was missing. Because knowing how you think is one thing, but understanding what you've been ignoring your whole life, that's where the real transformation begins. So let's begin. Which type are you? Because whether you realize it or not, it has already shaped everything about you. Before we dive deeper into the four core personality functions, there's something even more fundamental that defines how you interact with the world. Jung identified two primary attitudes that shape how we direct our mental energy. Introversion, focused on the inner world, introspection, and deep thinking. Extroversion, oriented toward the outer world, social interaction, and external stimulation. Most people assume that being an introvert means shy and reserved, while being an extrovert means loud and outgoing. But this is a misconception. An introvert can be highly confident, but they recharge by being alone, processing their thoughts internally. An extrovert can enjoy solitude, but they gain energy from external interaction and engagement. Jung believed that neither is better or worse. They are simply different ways of experiencing reality. But here's where it gets interesting. Your personality is not just about introversion or extroversion. These two attitudes act as a gateway to something much deeper. The four primary ways we process reality. The four personality functions. Jung discovered that every person has a dominant way of interpreting the world. He broke this down into four distinct functions. Thinking, the function of logic and analysis. Thinkers prioritize structure, problem solving, and objective truth. Feeling, the function of values and emotions. Feelers focus on relationships, harmony, and what feels morally right. Sensation, the function of tangible reality. Sensors rely on their five senses, trusting concrete facts and immediate experiences. Intuition, the function of abstract meaning. Intuitives look beyond the present, searching for hidden patterns and possibilities. Each of us has a dominant function that influences how we see the world. But here's the question. Do you actually know which one is yours? Or have you been conditioned to suppress it? Because if you've been living outside of your true function, your life might feel more exhausting than it should be. Decisions might feel forced. Your interactions might feel unnatural. But once you discover your dominant function, everything starts to make sense. You begin to understand why you think the way you do, why certain things drain you, and why others make you feel alive. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung believed that most people never fully understand their dominant function, because society pushes them to be something they're not. But recognizing how you process the world can bring more clarity to your decisions, relationships, and personal growth. Comment below. Do you think you're a thinker, feeler, sensor, or intuitive? What has shaped the way you experience the world? And if you're interested in learning more about Jung's ideas and how they apply to everyday life, consider subscribing for more insights. Jung's theory of personality doesn't stop at the 4 basic functions. Each of these, thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition, can manifest in 2 distinct ways. Externally, focused on the outer world, extroversion, or internally, focused on personal reflection, introversion. This creates 8 distinct personality types, each with a unique way of processing reality. Understanding them is not just about identifying yourself. It's about realizing how you've been shaped by these unconscious patterns. Some people, for example, operate primarily through extroverted thinking. They seek structure, efficiency, and measurable results. Their minds work like an engineer designing a flawless system, ensuring that everything functions according to logic and order. Facts guide their decisions, and they trust proven methods over personal feelings. But their drive for efficiency can make them dismissive of emotions, seeing them as distractions rather than essential parts of human experience. Their strength lies in their ability to create systems that work, but their weakness is failing to see the human cost of those systems. Others function through introverted thinking, where logic is internalized and analyzed in depth. These individuals don't just apply rules, they deconstruct them, questioning every assumption until only the purest truth remains. Unlike their extroverted counterparts, they are less concerned with organizing the outside world and more focused on refining their internal framework of knowledge. They may spend hours lost in thought, perfecting their understanding of a concept, before ever speaking a word about it. While this makes them brilliant at solving complex problems, it can also make them seem disconnected, lost in their own minds, struggling to bring their insights into practical application. Then there are those who lead with extroverted feeling, people whose greatest concern is harmony, connection, and emotional balance. Their ability to read a room is almost instinctual, sensing shifts in mood before anyone else even notices. They adapt effortlessly to social expectations, intuitively knowing what to say to make others feel seen and understood. But this deep empathy comes at a cost. They can lose themselves in the emotions of others, neglecting their own needs in their pursuit of keeping the peace. They thrive in roles where emotional intelligence is valued, but when forced into environments that demand cold logic, they may feel lost, as if stripped of their natural strengths. In contrast, introverted feeling types don't seek external validation. They navigate life guided by an internal moral compass, making decisions based on what feels deeply right rather than what is socially accepted. While an extroverted feeler adjusts to the world, an introverted feeler stands firm, refusing to betray their inner convictions. They create art, movements, and philosophies rooted in personal truth. But their depth of feeling can also isolate them, because if their values are too different from those around them, they may struggle to express themselves, feeling as though they exist in a world that doesn't understand them. Beyond thinking and feeling, some people experience the world primarily through extroverted sensation. These are the realists, the hands-on doers, the ones fully grounded in the present moment. They don't theorize about life, they experience it. Every color, texture, taste, and sound is absorbed in high definition. They thrive in fast-paced environments where their ability to react instantly gives them an edge. But this focus on the present can make long-term planning difficult. They may chase one thrill after another, always moving, never stopping to reflect on where they're headed. On the other end of the spectrum, introverted sensation types process the world through personal memory and past experience. They rely on what is familiar, what has been tested, and what has stood the test of time. Their minds work like a vast archive, recalling details others overlook. They find comfort in tradition, in structure, in what is known. But while their reliability is unmatched, they can also resist change, clinging to the past even when the world around them is moving forward. Then, there are those driven by extroverted intuition, visionaries who live not in the present, but in possibility. Where others see what is, they see what could be. Ideas flood their minds constantly, and they thrive on exploration, invention, and discovering new connections. They move from one concept to another with relentless curiosity, always searching for something just beyond the horizon. But their energy can be chaotic, leaving projects unfinished as new ideas pull them in different directions. Their challenge is learning to ground their visions in reality. Lastly, introverted intuition operates like a slow-burning fire, quiet, intense, and deeply insightful. These individuals experience sudden realizations that seem to come from nowhere, but in reality, they have been subconsciously processing patterns for a long time. They don't just see the world as it is, they sense where it is going. Their insights can seem almost prophetic, as if they understand things before they happen. But because their thought process is so internal, they often struggle to explain how they arrived at their conclusions, leaving others either in awe or in confusion. Each of these 8 types represents a different way of interacting with the world, but no one is purely one type. Jung believed that we all have a dominant function, the one we rely on the most, but we also have weaker functions that operate in the background. And here's where things get interesting. Our weakest function, the one we suppress, holds the key to balance. Many of our struggles come not from our dominant type, but from neglecting the parts of ourselves that we've ignored. So the question isn't just which type you are. Our personality isn't just one function. It's a hierarchy of mental processes working together in a delicate balance. Some functions take the lead, shaping the way you think and interact with the world. Others operate in the background, influencing you in subtle ways. And then there's the function you barely notice, the one buried so deep in your unconscious that, if left unchecked, it can become your greatest weakness. Jung believed that each person has a dominant function, the one they naturally rely on the most. It's like the main character of your psyche, the part of you that feels the most you. A thinker will always gravitate toward logic and structure. A feeler will navigate life through emotions and values. A sensor trusts what is tangible and present, while an intuitive is drawn to possibilities beyond the immediate. This dominant function develops early in life and acts as the core filter through which you experience the world. But no one operates with just one function. If your dominant function is the protagonist of your mind, then the auxiliary function is the supporting character, providing balance and depth. A person with dominant thinking, for example, may have feeling as their auxiliary function, helping them stay connected to emotions when logic alone isn't enough. Likewise, someone who leads with intuition might rely on sensation as their secondary function to stay grounded in reality. While the dominant function is always in control, the auxiliary plays a crucial role in making you a more adaptable and complete person. Then there's the tertiary function, a process that exists in the background, occasionally showing itself but never fully developed. Some people tap into their tertiary function as they mature, while others barely recognize its influence. A strong-willed extroverted thinker, for instance, might have a tertiary intuition, which sparks moments of creativity and insight. But because it's not their natural way of operating, it remains underdeveloped, surfacing only in certain situations. And finally, hidden in the depths of the unconscious lies the inferior function, the side of yourself that you least understand. yet the one that holds the most potential for growth. The inferior function is like a shadow. It resists control, operates unpredictably, and often reveals itself in moments of stress or emotional struggle. An extroverted sensor, for example, might have introverted intuition as their weakest function, meaning they struggle with abstract ideas or long-term vision. A dominant thinker may have feeling as their weakest link, making emotional situations overwhelming or difficult to navigate. This is where things get interesting, because while the inferior function may feel like a weakness, it also represents the missing piece of your personal growth. Jung believed that true individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires integrating the part of ourselves that we've neglected. The mind naturally resists this. It's uncomfortable to step outside your dominant way of thinking. A highly logical person may feel uneasy exploring emotions. A deeply emotional person might avoid confronting cold, hard logic. But if you ignore your weaker functions, you risk becoming trapped in a rigid, one-dimensional version of yourself. Think about your own life. Have you ever found yourself struggling in situations where your usual way of thinking doesn't work? Maybe you're a strong intuitive, always lost in ideas, but when it comes to dealing with practical details, you freeze. Or maybe you're a deeply structured thinker, but in moments that require emotional sensitivity, you feel completely out of your depth. These moments of frustration aren't just random. They are signs that your weaker functions are demanding attention. So what does this mean for personal growth? It means that developing the functions outside of your comfort zone is one of the most powerful things you can do. If you're a dominant feeler, practicing logical reasoning can make you more balanced. If you're a strong thinker, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and emotionally open can lead to deeper connections. If you rely on sensation, learning to embrace abstract thinking can expand your vision of the world. And if you're an intuitive, grounding yourself in the present can help you bring your ideas into reality. Jung didn't believe in changing who you are. He believed in expanding who you are. Your dominant function will always be your strength, but the key to true psychological growth is learning to integrate the parts of yourself that you've ignored. Because the more balanced you become, the more fully yourself you truly are. Much of who we are operates beneath the surface, hidden from our conscious awareness. We like to believe that we fully understand ourselves, that our thoughts, choices, and behaviors are entirely within our control. But Jung argued that this is an illusion. Behind every decision we make, behind every reaction, every fear, and every impulse lies something deeper, the unconscious mind, shaping us in ways we don't realize. Jung believed that within this hidden realm exists the shadow, the side of ourselves that we suppress, ignore, or outright deny. It's made up of everything we've been conditioned to push away: anger, jealousy, selfishness, vulnerability. Not because these traits don't exist within us, but because we were taught that they shouldn't. A child told to always be nice learns to repress their anger. Someone shamed for showing emotion starts to see vulnerability as a weakness. Over time, these rejected aspects don't disappear. They sink into the unconscious, influencing us from the background. But the shadow doesn't stay silent forever. It leaks out in unexpected ways, through sudden bursts of anger, patterns of self-sabotage, or an unexplainable dislike for others who reflect something we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. The more we ignore it, the stronger its influence becomes. Jung didn't see the shadow as something to be feared, but as a key to self-awareness. The goal is not to eliminate it, but to understand it, to bring it into consciousness and integrate it into our identity. Because when we stop running from the parts of ourselves we dislike, we gain something invaluable: wholeness. Recognizing the unconscious forces that shape our personality allows us to break free from patterns we never realized were controlling us. And in that awareness, true self-understanding begins. Understanding Jung's personality types isn't just an abstract concept. It's a tool that, when applied correctly, can transform how you navigate relationships, career choices, and personal development. Most conflicts, frustrations, And misunderstandings arise not because people are inherently difficult, but because they process reality differently. Recognizing these differences can be the key to unlocking better communication, smarter decision-making, and a more fulfilling life. Take relationships, for example. A thinking type and a feeling type can often clash. One prioritizes logic, while the other seeks emotional connection. The thinker might dismiss emotional concerns as irrational, while the feeler may see the thinker as cold or distant. But once they understand their differences, they can meet halfway. The thinker learns that emotions have their own form of intelligence, while the feeler realizes that logic isn't a rejection of emotion, it's simply a different way of navigating the world. In careers, knowing your dominant function can mean the difference between feeling stuck in the wrong job and thriving in an environment that aligns with your strengths. An extroverted sensor, for instance, would struggle in a slow, theory-heavy job that requires constant reflection, but they would excel in a fast-paced, hands-on career where quick decisions matter. Meanwhile, an introverted intuitive might feel drained in an environment that demands constant social engagement, but would thrive in a role that allows deep thinking and strategic foresight. Problem-solving also looks vastly different depending on type. Extroverted thinkers break problems into steps and apply external data, while introverted thinkers internally analyze every angle before making a decision. Intuitives seek patterns and abstract solutions, often thinking ahead of their time, whereas sensors focus on practical, immediate results. Recognizing these tendencies not only improves individual efficiency, but also enhances teamwork. Instead of frustration over different approaches, people can appreciate the strengths that others bring to the table. Self-awareness is powerful. Once you understand how you think, how you learn, and how you communicate, you stop forcing yourself into roles that don't fit. You stop resenting others for being different from you. And most importantly, you begin to navigate life in a way that feels natural, because you're no longer working against your own mind. Jung's personality theory has influenced everything from modern psychology to career assessments. But over time, many of his ideas have been oversimplified, distorted, or misinterpreted. One of the biggest misconceptions is that these personality types are rigid categories that define who you are and what you're capable of. In reality, Jung saw them as fluid psychological tendencies, not labels that confine people to a single way of thinking. A common misunderstanding is the belief that people are only one type, either a thinker or a feeler, a sensor or an intuitive. But in Jung's model, everyone has access to all four functions, just in different orders of preference. Your dominant function may guide your decision-making, but your auxiliary, tertiary, and even inferior functions still play a role. Dismissing them entirely creates an imbalanced self-perception, making people believe they can never improve in areas where they struggle. Another major confusion arises from the popular MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which was inspired by Jung's work but significantly altered his original framework. The MBTI categorizes people into 16 types based on four-letter codes, e.g. INTJ, ESFP, making it seem like personalities are fixed and unchanging. But Jung never intended for his typology to be a static classification. He believed that personality is a lifelong process of development, what he called individuation, where we gradually integrate different aspects of ourselves over time. Additionally, many assume that introversion and extroversion in Jung's model are the same as in everyday usage, where introverts are shy and extroverts are outgoing. But for Jung, these terms referred to where a person directs their mental energy, internally or externally, not how social they are. Someone could be an introverted thinker, but still enjoy socializing, or an extroverted feeler who needs time alone to process emotions. By understanding Jung's theories as they were meant to be, rather than through simplified modern adaptations, we get a far more accurate and useful framework, not just for identifying personality types, but for understanding the deeper mechanics of the human mind. Who are you really? Not the version of yourself shaped by expectations, not the role you play in society, but the person that exists beneath it all. Jung believed that most people never truly become themselves because they spend their lives identifying with only one part of their psyche, rejecting everything that doesn't fit their idea of who they should be. Individuation is the process of undoing that, of integrating all aspects of yourself to become whole. Unlike many psychological models that focus on fixing specific traits, individuation isn't about self-improvement. It's about self-realization. It requires confronting the parts of yourself that you've ignored, whether that's your suppressed emotions, your forgotten creativity, or the ambition you've been told is dangerous. Nietzsche touched on a similar idea when he spoke of becoming who you are, suggesting that growth isn't about conforming to an ideal, but embracing your inner contradictions. Strength and vulnerability, logic and emotion, discipline and spontaneity. None of these are opposites, but parts of a larger whole. This process isn't easy. The mind resists change, and society often rewards those who fit neatly into predefined categories. But individuation is not about pleasing others. It's about achieving inner harmony. Someone who has undergone this process doesn't just act logically or emotionally. They know when to rely on each. They don't just follow structure or intuition. They understand the value of both. They are not trapped in a single role, but free to move between aspects of themselves as needed. Most people live fragmented lives, disconnected from parts of themselves they never learned to accept. But those who complete individuation reach something rare, a state of inner clarity where their thoughts, emotions, and actions align, not because they are perfect, but because they are real. As Jung put it, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung most. People never reach that point. They live according to expectations, suppress their instincts, and ignore the deeper forces shaping their lives. But individuation is not something exclusive to philosophers or psychologists. It's a path available to anyone willing to look inward. If this video made you question how you think, how you feel, or how you process the world, that's a sign you're already beginning the journey. But understanding yourself is an ongoing process. And if you want to go deeper, I encourage you to keep exploring. Read Jung's Psychological Types, Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, or even Marcus Aurelius's Meditations to see how different thinkers approach self-discovery. And if you found value in this discussion, consider subscribing. These ideas are just the beginning, and there is still so much more to uncover. We started this journey by asking a simple question: who are you? But as we've seen, the answer is anything but simple. Your personality is not just one function, one way of thinking, or one rigid category. It is a complex interplay of strengths, weaknesses, and hidden aspects waiting to be uncovered. Jung's work reminds us that growth is not about choosing between logic or emotion, intuition or structure. It's about learning to integrate every part of yourself, the known and the unknown, the conscious and the unconscious. Individuation is not about becoming someone new, but finally accepting the person you've always been beneath the surface. So I leave you with one final question. Which aspect of your personality will you explore next?